The days don't pass anymore, not really. The sun rises, but it doesn't warm. The winds blow, but they don't shift the dust for long. Every morning feels like the one before, and the one before that, as if time has gotten tired of us and pressed repeat on its worst idea. The sky is a color it was never meant to be, somewhere between tarnished copper and the belly of a dead fish. Heavy clouds hang overhead like bruises, but they never let go. No rain, just static, a constant. Low crackle in the air, as if even the atmosphere's trying to apologize for what's happening. You can smell ozone and burnt plastic before you step outside. And sometimes sometimes you swear you can smell ash, even when there's nothing left to burn. I'm broadcasting from what used to be a library just outside the dead shell of Boise. The books here are long gone, most burned in one of the early fires. The rest bartered away for kindling or bandages. The walls are scorched and crumbling, but it's quiet, and the signal gets out clean from here. For now, out there. Past the shattered windows and rusting highway signs is the loop. Or maybe it's all the loop. I don't know. What I do know is this. Every day, the same storm rolls in. Same black funnel cloud eating the horizon around 4:17 p.m. Same flock of birds scattering in the same pattern. Same heat wave just before. It hits. We learned not to fight it. You can't outrun a day when the script's already been written. They say it started with the floods. Oceans climbed like they were late to something. Then came the droughts, like the planet was making up for its mistake. Wildfires fed off wind tunnels created by climate chaos. Somewhere in that blender of catastrophe, something broke maybe, time itself. Or maybe it's just us that broke, and time's reflecting the fracture back at us. What's left of the cities are haunted shells. Downtown Portland's nothing but melted steel and weed-choked skeletons of buildings. Vegas is buried in Sandaronic, considering how much water they use to waste on fountains and fake beaches. Chicago sits half-submerged, a jagged shoreline of collapsed highways and oil-slick water. You'd barely recognize them unless you remember the bones beneath governments. Gone, not with a bang, but with a shrug. The networks went down, the satellites blinked out, and the leaders vanished behind bunkers they never reopened. There were broadcasts for a while, safe zones, ration drops, evacuation corridors, but they fizzled out around the first or second loop. Now it's just voices like mine, pushing signals through battered towers and jury-rigged antennas, hoping someone out there is still listening. What remains is scattered. Survivor enclaves, tied together by desperation more than trust. Some hoard supplies, some hoard secrets. There's a group northeast of here that believes the loop is a test, some divine reset meant to punish us for centuries of waste. They pray with loudspeakers and burn anything they don't understand. I keep my distance. Then there are the scavengers. They move through the ruins like ghosts, faces wrapped in cloth, eyes scanning for motion. Some trade, most don't. They've adapted in ways the rest of us haven't. Efficient, brutal, silent. I've had my run-ins, still got the limp to prove it. We've lost more than cities. We've lost context, memories, slippery in the loop. Was it yesterday, or the version of yesterday before that, when I found the old photo album at the base of that collapsed overpass? I remember the faces, but I don't remember if they were mine. Time bends, things like that, makes grief echo. Even the animals changed. Birds migrate in circles. Coyotes prowl in packs during daylight. Insects hatch, live and die in a single loop, like they've given up on evolution altogether. Nature isn't healing, it's reacting, lashing out in patterns we never studied because no one ever thought time could turn toxic sometimes. I wonder if this is punishment or mercy. We're spared the future by being forced to relive the same. Failure. No new horrors, just the ones we already know, lined up in sequence, like soldiers in an endless parade of loss. And still, some of us are left. Not many, fewer, every loop. But we hold the line. We keep the fires lit. We turn the dials on old radios and tell our stories. Just in case someone's out there trying to piece the world back together from the fragments we left behind. The wind is picking up again. That means the heat waves not far behind, which means the storm will come again. Just like yesterday, just like always. My name is Jonah Rook. Not that it matters much anymore, names. I mean, they used to mean something. They were tied to jobs, homes, histories. Now they're more like eco-squiet reminders of who we used to be, bouncing around the empty spaces we left behind. Before all this, I was a technician at a small public radio station in Idaho, KTRS 88.1 FM. Nothing glamorous. I fixed static, ran weather alerts, cued local musicians who never made it out of the valley. My biggest thrill was rerouting a transmitter to cover an extra 20 miles east toward the mountains. Back then, the biggest worry was budget cuts and wildfire season now. The wildfire season never ends, and I'm still on the air. Same voice, different world. I'm not a hero. I didn't save anyone. I didn't stop the collapse. I just stayed alive. And now I talk into this busted mic through a second-hand antenna bolted to the roof of an abandoned library, powered by a Frankenstein array of solar panels and scavenged batteries. It's not much, but it's something. It started with small losses. First, the job public radio funding gone in a single vote. Then the city evacuated when the rivers dried to dust and the heat drove people mad. Then my brother, Caleb, he went south, chasing a rumor about a sanctuary in Flagstaff. I told him the roads were boiling, told him the heat dome wouldn't. Let up he left anyway. I haven't heard from him since. Then again, it's hard to tell what's silence and what's the loop. See, the loop doesn't care about grief. It doesn't give you time to mourn. You wake up the next day same as the last, with your losses freshly laid out like clothes on a line. Same storm, same dead birds on the power lines, same static hum in your chest, like a radio trying to tune to a signal that no longer exists. But I keep broadcasting. I pedal the generator for power. My right knee's baud rater ambush a few loops ago, but the left one holds up fine. I ration canned food found in basements and long abandoned FEMA storage sheds. The expiration dates stopped mattering about 5 years ago. You can tell what's safe by smell now. Instinct beats science in the wasteland. Water's trickier. There's a collapsed filtration plant near the Southern Highway. I make runs to the system's fried, but the cisterns still catch condensation in the mornings. If you get there before the sun bakes it off, that place is a gamble sometimes. You run into scavengers, sometimes the same ones from last time. The loop doesn't stop people from being dangerous. It just makes them repeat it. What keeps me going? That's the question, isn't it? Sometimes I think it's the broadcast. Not because I believe I'm saving anyone. Hell, I don't even know if anyone's still listening. But it feels like I'm still part of the world if I can speak into it. Like I'm not just a leftover. I send out weather updates, even though the weather never changes. I read names off old dog tags I find in the rubble, just in case their families are out there somewhere, some version of them, still alive in some skipped beat of the loop. I play music when I can, scratched up old vinyl, warbling tapes I've patched together with hope and duct tape. Sometimes I tell stories. I talk about the time my mother tried to bake a cake during a blackout and used candles instead of the oven. About how my dad used to shout at squirrels like they were government spies. About the one time Caleb and I tried to build a treehouse and ended up stuck halfway up the ladder during a thunderstorm. It's stupid stuff, maybe, but memory is all we've got left of the world before. And if we forget that world, even for a day, even if it's a day that repeats forever, then what's the point? I miss people, the real kind, not just the ones who cross your path with a weapon in hand or desperation in their eyes. I miss laughter, the kind that comes out of nowhere. I miss crowded rooms, shared meals, hearing someone else's heartbeat when you're lying awake, too wired to sleep. I even miss the boring parts, groceries, lines, awkward, HELLOS, .now. Every connection is measured in static. There's a woman named Kaya, I hear sometimes, over Channel 10. She's out past the salt wastes. I don't know what she looks like. I only know her voice, low, tired, edged with sarcasm, like mine, I guess. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't. Sometimes the loop resets before I can answer her last message. That part hurts more than I like to admit, hard to measure. There's a rhythm to it now, a kind of stutter in time you learn to feel. I keep track with a series of tally, marks scratched into the metal of the library's wall, just beside the generator. Every time the same bird hits the same window, I start again. Still, something in me refuses to quit. It's not bravery, not really. It's something quieter. Stubbornness, maybe, or spite, or just the belief that maybe, just maybe one, these loops will break, that something, somewhere, will shift, that the storm won't come at 4:17, that the sun will set a few minutes later, that Kaya will finish her sentence. People think hope is loud, shouting from rooftops, punching through despair, but that's not true. Hope's a whisper. It's the breath before you give up. The decision to speak into the static, even when it's never answered. That's me, Jonah Rook, voice in the dark, man out of time, quite literally. I survive on rust, memory, and the dream that something might change. And until it does, or until I don't tile, keep talking. Maybe you're out there, maybe you're listening, maybe the loop hasn't reached you yet. If so, stay safe, stay human. And if you hear me send something back, anything, a name, a story, a sound, because the worst part of repeating the end of the world is doing it alone. They say time heals all wounds. I'm here to tell you that's a lie, because when time loops back on itself over and over, it doesn't heal a thing. It reopens everything, every burn, every mistake, every scream that echoed through the heat waves. And just when you think you've memorized the pattern, it changes something small. Enough to remind you that the world is still dying, if it's dying the same way again and again. The crisis, if you can call it, just one isn't, something that started recently. The roots were set decades ago. Rising carbon, melting ice, ignored warnings, deregulated industries, heat bubbles swelling in the sky. But somewhere along the line, nature stopped trying to balance the scales. It started fighting back. I live in the center of a permanent high-pressure dome. Some call it the furnace loop. Temperatures swing between 49 and 55 Celsius every day. That's 120 to 131 Fahrenheit, if you still think in those terms. You can't breathe right when it's like this. Your sweat evaporates before it even forms. Your body forgets how to cool itself. You step outside for more than 15 minutes, and you'll cook from the inside out literally. It's called hyperthermic collapse. I've seen it happen, but what makes this worse isn't the heat itself, it's the storm. Every day, at precisely 4:17 p.m., the sky goes black. And I mean black like someone's dragging ink across the clouds with a knife. The winds whip up in seconds, gusting hard enough to peel rooftops off anything still standing. Then comes the lightning, thick and unnatural, sometimes striking in straight lines, as if it's being guided. That's followed by dust, dry and choking, kicked up by pressure waves that move with terrifying precision. You can't predict it, except that it's always at 4:17, and you can't outrun it. I've tried. One loop, I packed what I could, climbed into a gutted utility truck I'd repaired with scavenged parts, and headed due north. I made it exactly 19 kilometers before the tires melted into the asphalt, and the storm curved back toward me like it knew I was leaving. That's when I realized this isn't just weather, it's a trap. Some say it's atmospheric stagnation, that the feedback loops in the jet stream locked us into a thermal cycle that just ... snapped. Others say it's more like temporal shearing, that time itself fractured under the environmental stress and now repeats in microbursts. One survivor, an old climatologist I spoke to during Loop 37, claimed it was a quantum-level phase anomaly triggered by solar overactivity, amplified by greenhouse saturation. He might have been right, or he might have been crazy. Doesn't matter. He died in the same storm 3 loops in a row. Whatever it is, it's real, and it's killing us. Not fast, just relentlessly. Water is the first and last resource we bleed for. In the early days of the loop, I could still siphon it from backup tanks under the high school gym or crack open fire hydrants that hadn't rusted over. Now that's gone. Anything left has been claimed or poisoned by storm runoff Falkland-rich, dust that burns the tongue and scorches the gut. So I learned to trap condensation. It's primitive, but it works. You stretch a tarp-salvaged plastic, sealed tight over a frame, and place a catch bucket beneath the lowest point. The heat during the day causes vapor to rise, and the cooler night draws it back down. If you're lucky, you get half a liter a day. If you're unlucky, the storm takes your tarp and you start over. Food's not much better. The soil's dead. The temperature spikes cook the topsoil into hardpan, and nothing grows anymore. Even scavengings, drying up most of the canned goods, are rusted through, and sealed packaging means less every day. I've taken to cracking open emergency rations left behind in government lockers' chemical slop in foil pouches. It tastes like plastic and regret, but it keeps the shakes away. Fuel, forget it. Every car battery is either drained or exploded from thermal expansion. I keep the radio running with a jury-rigged array of solar panels, but those only hold up. If I keep brushing the dust off every few hours, miss it once, and they cake over like a tombstone. And then there are the others. I call them loopers, not because they know what's happening, but because they're caught in it too. Some live, like the days new every time. I envy them. I met a woman once, surly 30s, face streaked with soot, asked me if the fires would reach the edge of the suburbs soon. I realized she didn't know. She wasn't aware of the loop. Maybe she was newly caught in it. Maybe her mind broke so cleanly it left the pattern invisible. Either way, she smiled when I offered her water. She died 3 hours later, same as the next loop. Others, remember, you can see it in their eyes. Not confusion, but fatigue. The kind of exhaustion that comes from living the same hell again and again, and knowing you'll never get out of it. They don't talk much. They don't hope. Some of them ... lash out. 3 loops ago, I ran into a group west of the train yard. They wore mirror visors and heat-insulated rags stitched with copper wire, something about channeling the radiation. They called themselves the Refusers, said they believed the loop was a message, and that by rejecting the script, by acting out, they could break it. They tried to kill me. They stripped my shelter, tore down the transmitter, and beat me until I passed out. When I came to, the loop had reset. Everything was back. But the bruises lingered ghost pains. I stopped sending coordinates on the open band. Now I speak in code. Still, the storm finds me. Every day, same crescendo of collapse. My library shakes. The shelves clatter. The light pulses red in the dust. Sometimes it feels like the world is trying to erase itself one detail at a time. The same crow hits the same window. The same spark shorts out the backup panel. The same scream in the wind just before it hits. Why is survival harder now? Because time itself has turned against us. Every plan you make dissolves by dawn. Every wound reopens. Every step forward is swallowed by the cycle. You can't fix anything when the whole damn day resets. And yet, something's changing. I don't mean hope. I'm not that naive. But I've noticed subtle deviations. A bird lands on the wrong wire. A breeze comes 5 minutes early. The storm flickers once, like it's hesitating. I log everything, track every anomaly. It's all in the notebook's waterproof paper, bound in wire. If the loop breaks, I need to remember what wasn't repeating. Because if there's a crack in the pattern event, the tiniest one, there might be a way out. Maybe that's why I keep going, not to survive forever, but to witness the moment the loop stutters, to prove it can be broken. That's today's update, listeners. Loop number 87. Current temp 53.1 Celsius and rising. Time 3:52 p.m. Severe wind shear expected within the hour. Barometric pressure dropping at an accelerating rate. And if I'm right, the storm's late, which means the loop might have slipped. Just a second, just a breath. But it might be enough. Stay tuned, stay alive, if the world is watching. I want it to know I saw it flinch. No rain, no break in the heat. But today, I saw smoke in a direction that shouldn't have had fire. Something's shifting. The environmental pressure is getting worse. The storms come faster now. like time itself is getting impatient. The daily temperatures peak sooner, and when the dust comes, it no longer waits for sunset to fall lit howls in at midday. Blinding, blistering, scraping everything bare. My water catch failed 2 loops ago. The tarp tore, probably the plastic grew brittle from the UV exposure, or maybe the fibers just gave up. Doesn't matter why. I tried to patch it, but the resin I used won't hold under the pressure fluctuations. I've got 1 liter left, maybe 2 if I cut food intake and stop talking so much on the broadcast. I've noticed my voice cracking more. The mic pops now when I say P sounds. I keep adjusting the gain, but it's not the settings. It's me. The body gives out slowly, like a candle burning from both ends, flickering a little weaker each time yesterday. I heard something on band 17. It started with static. That's normal. But under the static, there was music. Not mine, not Kaya's. It was a piano simple, chords clean and gentle, like something from a long-forgotten memory. Then a voice, mail.com, clear, he said. If you're hearing this, head north. The springs are open. The mountain is safe. It cut out after that, nothing more. I looped the frequency 3 times, but it never played again. A hoax, maybe, or a ghost in the machine, or a glitch in the loop. That night, if you can call any night, here night I couldn't sleep. The heat pressed against me like a wet blanket, and the wind kept whistling through the busted ceiling panels like it was singing an elegy I wasn't ready to hear. But my mind kept going back to that phrase, the springs are open, the mountain is safe. Mountains don't lie. That's what my brother used to say, back before he vanished into the heat haze, chasing his own kind of hope. He believed in elevation, the idea that the higher you climb, the further you are from the mess we made. Water always hides in the cracks, he said once. Could be refusers setting bait, but I can't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, the loop's trying to tell me something new. Today, I made a run for fuel cells from an old maintenance depot. Place had been picked over before, but I found a partially intact power bank, wired into a solar array half buried under sand. I hauled it back by hand, took half the day, and nearly cost me a finger when the casing snapped and sliced deep. Wrapped it in gauze from a medkit that expired before the oceans rose. Still cleaner than most things now. With enough charge, I can power the transmitter for another few loops. Maybe even get a message further out than before. If anyone's listening, the decision's burning at the edge of my thoughts to go. Whether to believe. Heading north means leaving the safety of the known cycle. The storm comes here at 4:17. I know its pattern. I know how to hide out there. I have no clue how the loop behaves. What if time resets differently past the perimeter? What if I step into a dead zone, one that doesn't reset, just erases? And then there's Kaya. She pinged in last loop. Her voice was shaky, said she was pinned near an old wind farm southwest of the lake bed. Raiders, she thought. 4 of them, armed, aggressive. They didn't recognize the loop, she said, or didn't care. She asked for help. I didn't answer. The loop reset before I could. I don't know what happened. I don't know if she remembers calling for help. I don't even know if she's real anymore. But I think about her voice, how tired it sounded, how much like mine, and I hate myself for hesitating today. While checking the perimeter sensors I rigged with motion wire and pressure plates, I found a print in the dust that didn't belong to me, heavy boot tread, deeper than mine. Someone came through the east fence during the night, and I didn't hear a thing. I've booby-trapped the stairwell now. It won't stop someone determined, but it'll make them bleed. I rigged empty cans along the top shelf of the door, crude but noisy, and sometimes noise is the only warning you get. I checked the radio logs. Nothing new on band 17. No piano, no mountain. Just the same static cough and the whine of solar interference. I checked the logs again anyway, 3 times. Desperation has a sound, and it's the clatter of fingers searching for proof that isn't there. Still, I packed .1 backpack, 1 solar sheet, 1 folding blade, 2 liters of water, a ration pouch of freeze-dried lentils and soy protein. 1 photo me and Caleb at a rest stop somewhere in Montana. You can't see the rest stop anymore. It's under a salt flat. But I remember the soda machine worked, and we bought 3 cold drinks just because we could. That was before. Now every sip costs you hours of sweat and planning. Every decision is a cliff. Loop 93. This morning, the storm came early, 3:49 p.m. Sharp wind first. No bird on the wire. No warning crackle in the air. Just a sudden, gut-deep shift, like the earth blinked. I ran to the roof, watched the dust roll in sideways, orange and red and thick enough to hide the sun. Then lightning forking between clouds that weren't supposed to be there yet. 1 bolt hit the old radio tower half a click east. It melted. That tower's never been hit before. Not in any loop. That's not just a shift. That's a deviation. Something is breaking. That night, I dreamed of snow. Not the dirty ashfall kind we sometimes got early in the collapse. Real snow. Soft, cold. It fell on my skin and didn't burn. I was standing on the slope of a mountain, watching water bubble from a crack in the rock. Clear water, fresh. A woman stood beside me, face obscured by shadow, but I knew it was Kaya. She said nothing, just looked at me, and I knew what she meant. You need to come. Loop 94. I'm leaving tomorrow. The decision's made, though it guts me. I'll broadcast 1 more time from this station before I go. If I make it to the mountain, I'll find a way to send word. If the piano man is real live, the springs are real lil, let you know I'm scared, not of death. I've seen enough of it to grow numb to that particular shadow. What I'm scared of is hope, that soft, dangerous thing, that maybe the loop is testing me or tricking me, that I'll climb for days and find nothing, that I'll vanish from time without ever leaving a mark. But I can't stay here, not anymore. The loop's unraveling, the storm's changing, the rules are bending, the perimeter is breached. I have to know. So if you're hearing this, if you're still there, head north. The springs are open. The mountain is safe. Or maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just another lie in a world full of them. But it's the only one I haven't chased yet. And sometimes chasing the lie is the only way to find the truth. Broadcast. Terminated at 4:16 p.m. Storm arrived at 4:22 p.m. Deviation confirmed. Loop integrity compromised. Loop 95. I made it out of the perimeter. I'm not sure how far north I've come. The roads are dust. The signs unreadable. And the sun hasn't looked like the sun for years. But I passed the crater at mile marker 214, which shouldn't exist. It wasn't there before. It's perfectly circular. smooth-edged, like something burned through time and took the earth with it. Around it, the storm didn't blow. No wind, no dust, no pressure shift, just silence. Too much silence. Something is wrong with the loop. Or maybe something is finally right. I left my last message on the open band before cutting transmission. I stripped the transmitter, buried the solar cell under glass and sand in case I need to come back. But I don't want to come back. Not this time. The air is still hot, here knife sharp and thin, but it doesn't feel as acidic. The wind carries scent, not smoke, but pine, dry pine needles. I haven't smelled that in I don't know how long, and then I heard it again. The piano, soft, off-key, half-feeden by distance, but it was real, not in the radio, not a recording. Sound moving through air, through real space. A melody that hadn't been looped, hadn't been filtered or repeated. I followed it over a ridge of broken stone and skeletal trees, through a valley of black glass and warped soil. The closer I got, the cooler the ground felt underfoot. Not cold, but less murderous. I dared take off my glove and touch the rock. It didn't burn me. It didn't pulse with static. It just was dot, and then I saw it. A structure, steel, angular, built into the base of a craggy mountain, scarred by past fires. It wasn't a bunker, and it wasn't a ruin. It was intact. A satellite dish poked above the stone like a rusted periscope. 2 wind turbines spun slowly, their blades mostly intact, and standing in the entrance was a figure, not armed, not hostile, she waved. Her name is Eris. I don't know if that's her real name, or if she just told me something I'd believe. I don't even know how long she's been here. Time inside the loop plays tricks on memory, and she spoke as if she, too, had watched the days repeat. She looked sad. It's breaking, she said, but not the way you think. She brought me into the shelter. It wasn't fancy, but it was functional. Solar arrays linked to old server banks and thermal batteries. A filtration system patched together from irrigation pumps and algae gel. And a water tank half full. Actual water, cold, clean. She poured a cup without hesitation and handed it to me. I wept. Right there on her metal floor, it was the first thing I'd tasted in years that didn't taste like rust or decay. Where is this? I asked. She called it the Echo Base, named, she said, for the way time reverberated around it, but never seemed to stick. Something about the mountain's mineral content, a unique composition of crystalline silica and magnetic ore that bends atmospheric pressure and maybe even time itself. She didn't know for sure, or maybe she did, but didn't want to say. But what she did know, what she showed me, was a map, not of the world as it is, but of the loop. She'd been tracking them for years, recording resets, anomalies, deviations, and in the last 5 loops, they'd all shifted toward, here, toward now. She believed the loop was ending, or collapsing, or evolving into something worse. The system's closing, she said, tapping a flashing node on the screen, like a heartbeat slowing down, or a door shutting. This spot, this shelter, it's one of the few places that resists the loop's full effect. That's why you could reach it. But soon, even this won't hold. I asked what we could do. Just looked at me. Tired, honest, nothing, she said, except decide what kind of memory we leave behind. That night, a storm rolled in. not the regular one, not the 417 Precision Tempest. This one came at 1:04 a.m., shattered the sky like a broken mirror. The clouds weren't red, but violet, lit from within. You could see pulses in them like veins under skin. Eris and I scrambled to seal the panels, protect the equipment. The wind turbines locked themselves mid-turn, then bent backward with a sound like bone snapping. "I've never seen this pattern," she said, voice shaking. "It's folding in," and then the tremors started. Not earthquakes, something worse. The loop itself stuttered. I felt it like a record skipping beneath my feet. A second of time repeated, then another skipped. My hand moved before my brain caught up. The lights flickered once, twice, then held. I looked at the digital clock on her console, 4:17 a.m., not p.m. Everything had shifted. It wasn't resetting anymore. This was it. The end of the loop, or the collapse of the system. "I have to broadcast," I told her. One last time. She hesitated, then nodded, handed me the mic. I didn't write it down. I didn't script it. I just spoke. "This is Jonah Rook. Don't know what time it is. I don't know what day, but I know the loop is failing. The storm came early. The sky cracked sideways. The ground beneath me stutters like it's losing memory. I don't know if this is the end or the beginning. I don't know if time is dying or being born again. But I know one thing. There's still someone out here. There's still water. There's still a mountain that remembers how to stand. So if you're hearing this, wherever you are, whenever, you know that you are not alone. There's still a place where the world hasn't given up. There's still a place where you can breathe without burning. A place where memory doesn't loop, it lives. Come north. Come now. And if you can't, if this is my last broadcast, then know this. I saw the loop flinch, and in that moment, I remembered what it felt like to hope. The signal held for 24 seconds after the tremor. Then it went dead. The power grid surged. The map screens blinked to static. The lights failed, didn't run. There was nowhere left to run, because the loop wasn't just breaking time. It was about to decide if we got to continue. And for the first time in years, just silence thick, unnatural, the kind that makes you feel like you've gone deaf, or like the world itself has stopped breathing. The shelter was still intact, mostly. The consoles had gone dark. Eris was gone. I called her name twice, 3 times, no answer. No footsteps in the gravel outside. No sign of a struggle. No trail to follow. Just an empty sleeping mat and her half-drunk cup of water on the counter. She'd left behind her map-the-topographic pulse chart, the one covered in scribbles and notes and glitch markers, but the lines had changed. Where there had once been a pulsing rhythm, now it was flat. No peaks, no stutters, no loop. I stepped. Outside, the air was different. Not cooler, still hot, still dry, but it didn't sting my lungs the way it used to. The pressure that had always weighed down on my chest like a stone was flashed lighter. The wind blew softly, not in gales, but in whispers. For the first time in what felt like years, I smelled the faintest trace of moisture in the air. A promise. This was thinner, washed out, like dawn trying to remember how to break through. Something had happened. The loop had stuttered. Then it had collapsed, and I was still here. I stayed at Echo Base for a few more days, or maybe a week. Time has been difficult to track since the collapse. My watch froze during the storm, and the sun doesn't move quite right, any more either too fast or too slow, like it's still trying to remember how to arc. If she survived the final pulse, I don't know if she was ever fully R'hllor, if she was something the loop created to guide me here, a fragment of memory turned flesh. But I do know she changed something in me. For a long time, I thought surviving meant staying ahead of the cycle. Keep your head down. Don't trust. Don't hope. Just breathe. Just eat. Just hide from the storm until the clock wound back and gave you another shot. But I don't think that way anymore, because now I know what it feels like to matter again, to step forward instead of in circles, to make a choice that doesn't get wiped away. The valley has started changing. I walked the perimeter last night, just as the first stars began to blink into focus fent and scattered, like they were still nervous about shining again. A single insect flitted past my Fisa net, maybe, or a beetle too small to name. Life, not just memory, not just echo. Life. And it's not just here. The old relay station I passed on the way north, it's still there. The tower is twisted, but the glass is intact. I found a cracked mirror, half buried in ash. My reflection startled me. The face looking back was older than I remembered, a little more sun-scarred, thinner, quieter in the eyes, but real. I look real again, a reaction maybe from the earth itself, maybe from the systems we broke, or maybe just the way time tries to protect itself when it's being torn apart. A reset button for a planet on the edge of failure. But reset doesn't mean heal. It means delay. Delay long enough for something or someone to change the course. Maybe that was me, or maybe I was just the one who lasted long enough to see. It unraveled. There's no guarantee this is over. The world's not healed. The rivers haven't returned. The cities are still skeletons. The dust still chokes most of the flatlands. But it's not looping anymore. Each new day is new. And that's everything. I've resumed broadcasting. Not from the old station. I buried that rig. It's part of the old loop. But here, at Echo Base, I've rebuilt a narrowband transmitter. It's small, weak, but it carries. I've routed it through the mountain's natural reflective chamber. If you're anywhere nearby and you're listening, I'm alive. The loop is gone. The world didn't end, paused, and now it's pressing play again, awkwardly, hesitantly, like a record trying to find the next groove. I don't know what comes next. I don't know how many of you made it through. Maybe none of you. Maybe hundreds. Maybe someone's already rebuilding out there, planting seeds, charting new calendars. If you are send a signal, I'll answer. And if you're just surviving, like I was, keep going. The storm passed. The reset failed. And that means every step forward now actually counts. There's one last thing. I had a dream again. Not like the others. Not a memory loop. Not a trauma echo. This one was new. I was standing on a hill overlooking the valley. Eris was there. She didn't speak, but she smiled. Behind her, where once there had been only cracked dust and bent metal, now stood rows of green. Not much, just shoots. Little flags of green stabbing out of the earth like they were reclaiming it. Above us, clouds gathered, soft, blue-gray, pregnant with rain. And for the first time in all these broken years, I believed it might actually fall. When I woke, the wind had shifted. It carried the scent of petrichor dry earth, waiting for rain. I'm still here, still transmitting, still human. And if you're out there, if you've survived, if you've felt the shift, you're not alone, not anymore. Let's rebuild something the loop can't erase. I don't know how long I've been awake, not just today, but in general. Ever since the loop broke, sleep feels strange, like I'm no longer resetting with the world, no longer being rewound and wound again, like an old watch that never stops ticking. I wake up where I left off. It's terrifying. It's beautiful. I'm writing this by hand. The power's been low lately. The turbines only catch wind every few hours now, and the solar panels are still coated in layers of ash and time. I scrub them when I can, ration the charge, keep the transmitter running long enough for a message or two. But I figure words last longer on paper than they do in the static. Maybe someone will find this. Maybe you already have. I hope you're somewhere safe. I hope you've seen something grow. Out here in the shadow of the mountain, the moss patch has spread. It's small, sure, but I noticed 3 new sprigs yesterday. Green, soft, alive. I bent down and pressed my fingers into the dirt beneath it. Real dirt, damp. It clung to my skin like it didn't want to let go. Hope feels a bit like that, quiet, small, persistent. It clings. I don't know if the world will ever return to what it was. Honestly, I'm not sure it should. The world we had was the one that broke everything. Worlds low and strange and stubborn has a better shot, but it won't build itself. I think about Eris sometimes. I wonder where she went, or if she was ever here at all. A few nights ago, I heard the piano again. Not through the speakers, not from the broadcast logs, just from the valley. Distant, faint, carried on the wind. A melody, familiar and haunting. I followed it, didn't find anyone, just a piece of old sheet music, half buried under a stone, water-stained, unreadable, but still whole enough to recognize the lines. Sometimes I wonder if the loop left echoes behind, ghosts of memory, hints of paths we could have taken. Sometimes I wonder if we're the echoes. I planted something. It's not much, just a sprouted bean I found in one of the storage packs. It had dried out, cracked, then softened again when I dropped it into water. I dug a shallow hole near the moss and dropped it in, gave it a name, watched it. No idea if it'll grow, but it's something to check on in the mornings, something to look forward to. The funny thing about survival is how mundane it gets once the immediate danger fades. You stop running, you start living. That means you start feeling again. Grief, gratitude, anger, wonder, all the things you had to push aside just to keep breathing. It's harder now in some ways, but it's real. I still send broadcasts. Every morning, just before the heat rises, I fire up the transmitter and speak into the mic. Most of the time, I don't even hear myself echo back. No replies, no voices, just silence or static. But I keep sending anyway, because if the loop taught me anything, it's that repetition isn't failure. Sometimes it's how you're found. If this is the last page, if this is the last thing I ever get to say to whoever comes next, then let it be this. Keep going, even when it doesn't make sense. Even when the world resets, collapses, or disappears under your feet. Even when hope feels like a hallucination. Keep walking, keep building, keep planting things, even if you don't know what they'll become. Because survival isn't just about outlasting the end. It's about creating something after it. Maybe we were never meant to live inside a loop. Maybe it was just a lesson. A long, brutal reminder that time isn't infinitand. Neither are we. But as long as you're breathing, as long as there's air in your lungs and dust on your boots, you have a chance to make it count. I'm Jonah Rook, still here, still transmitting. If you're out there, if you're alive, if you're building, you're not alone. And if no one's left to hear this, then I'll say it anyway. Because words deserve to be spoken, even if they echo into nothing. Stay alive, stay human. We were never meant to loop forever. We were meant to change. Ask Chet.